Hey, friends! Well, here we are again, looking at still more Nutty Nutcrackers, versions of the famous ballet written by Tchaikovsky, based on a story by E.F. Hoffman. Some of these are good, some of these are weird, some are lousy. And I have more of these for you again this year. Next year, maybe I'll go into the story in more detail, but suffice to say, it's about a little girl who goes on a magical journey, or a dream, depending, on Christmas Eve in the early 1800s. She has a godfather named Drosselmeyer who usually sports an eye patch, said godfather being a master craftsman who creates wondrous clockwork toys. He's considered a bit of a magician or even a wizard, depending on the version you see. There's a big Christmas party where people visit the little girl's home, and Drosselmeyer shows off some life-size dancing robots to delight the kiddies. Sometimes he has a clockwork castle with him as well. He gives his goddaughter a Nutcracker, which later comes to life, and with an army of toy soldiers and gingerbread men, he protects the girl from the evil Mouse King and his army of mice. The girl shrinks like Alice in Wonderland to mouse size, which is usually depicted in a spectacular set piece where the Christmas tree grows gigantic. She helps the Nutcracker defeat the Mouse King, leading to the breaking of a curse, and the Nutcracker transforms into a prince, sometimes a kid, sometimes an adult. The girl may or may not transform into an adult as well. She either stays a little girl throughout the proceedings, or she becomes the Nutcracker Prince's main squeeze, the Sugar Plum Princess. If she stays a kid, then the Sugar Plum Princess puts on a show with all of the dancers of Candyland to thank the girl for saving the prince. Then the girl goes home and the prince turns out to be Drosselmeyer's nephew, and it's implied the pair will hook up one day when they're grown-ups. Probably. The end. That's a super condensed version of the Nutcracker for you right there. The ballet is put on every Christmas and has been put on film and television in many different variations. My favorite is the one from 1986. Anyway, I have another smattering of these to share with you this year. Now, here's a pretty good version of the Nutcracker, where the little girl stays a kid. This was put on by the New York City Ballet in 2011. These are the same people who were in the Macaulay Culkin version from 1993. Actually, to be fair, he was in their version. I reviewed that one a couple of Christmases ago, and this one from 2011 is very good, but it has the same problem the 1993 film had. Namely, during the whole long dance in the Land of the Sweets, which I refer to as Candyland, but it's really the Land of Sweets, the two kids have to sit upstage in the back there the whole time. And you can see here, poor Macaulay Culkin looked like he was bored out of his mind, didn't he? Well, these kids do a little better, but still. That's a creative choice to have the kids sit there, and other Nutcrackers dispense with that. And there are many variations of the story which don't even feature kids sitting there at all. But this one is very good, and the New York City Ballet certainly knows how to tippy-toe around in tutus, and that's for sure. I love this guy. I mean, priorities, am I right? And the Mouse King when he croaks. That gets me every time. This is a very well done version and a good place to start if you've never seen the Nutcracker. This is on YouTube, and I'll try to remember to link to it down below there for you. Which brings me to another version from, I guess, 2020. This version of the Nutcracker was staged by the Roshkis, the Russian State Ballet. This is also on YouTube, and it has some odd features. Not bad, but odd. First up, the Nutcracker is usually shown as a doll-sized object, about the size of a Betsy Wetsy doll, right? But here, the Nutcracker is a fully grown adult-sized guy right from the start. I don't think you see that too often. Second, Drosselmeyer doesn't have the eye patch the character normally sports, but more than that, he's always lurking somewhere about. You see him moving through the stage for most of the performance, and I kind of like that. It gives the impression Drosselmeyer is controlling things, orchestrating events in keeping with his vague standing as some kind of a magician or mystical being, guiding the little girl through the story. This one is hampered by its budget a bit. The Mouse King only has one head. Usually he has multiple heads to make him more horrific and scary. The tree doesn't grow, but they do some interesting tricks with lights and patterns to show the environment is changing, and you can see these footlights, which are painfully obvious, downstage there throughout the show. And this flooring they put down, which is a thing in some theaters. They lay this dance flooring down over the existing stage for a better dance surface, but this one, man, you can hear the dancers. Thunk, 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 dat, 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 whenever they go trotting around. It's kind of distracting. Jeez, almost sounds like Riverdance. Oh, God. But aside from those quibbles, this one isn't bad at all. Again, not a bad place to start. I'll link to this one too. But maybe you want to ease into the Nutcracker another way. How about some animated Nutcrackers? Well, here's another one from the Ruskies. This one was a Soviet version of the Nutcracker from 1973, and it kind of conflates the Nutcracker with Cinderella, but whatever. This one is hella stylish, but it does play fast and loose with Nutcrackery. Here, the little girl is a housemaid and winds up becoming the Sugar Plum Princess. It's well worth a watch, though, and it's only like 25 minutes. And I'll link to this one, too. And how about this? An anime version of the Nutcracker from 1995. Looks kinda anime anyway. Good Times Entertainment distributed this one, but not in theaters. This went direct to video. Now this one is also very different in that, unlike most Nutcrackers, this one shows the origin of the Nutcracker Prince and how he got transformed into a Nutcracker in the first place. That's in Hoffman's story, but most versions dispense with that, so this kinda isn't the story most people are familiar with. The Ruski cartoon does some of this too. Also, for some really bizarre reason, they hardly use any of the Nutcracker music. I mean, you'd think they would since it was free, but no. Anyway, moving on, here's an abomination for you. The Wonder Pets Save the Nutcracker from 2008. This was made for Nickelodeon. Now, I never heard of the Wonder Pets. As best I can figure this thing, this takes place in a kindergarten classroom, and these are the class pets. They used to do that in school. When I was in second grade, we had a budgie. Anyway, this class has a guinea pig, a duckling who can somehow fly, and whatever the hell this thing's supposed to be. Looks like a frog, but it's a turtle with shoes. This duckling talks in this cringy baby voice like, "It's Christmas, Wonder Pets." Oh God, it's awful. Anyway, here the Wonder Pets have been abandoned for their Christmas break, hopefully to starve to death. And they have only one present under the tree. It's a Nutcracker, turns out, and one walnut that they can't open until Christmas morning. So they go to bed and thankfully shut up and stop talking for a minute or two when the Mouse King comes out of a book and steals their Nutcracker. The Wonder Pets climb into their cocaine mobile and fly into the book to chase the Mouse King. He leads them on a merry chase where the pets dance and sing until finally cornering the Mouse King, and they make friends with him. See, unlike in the Nutcracker, it turns out this Mouse King wasn't really bad, just lonely. Well, to be fair, he really is adorable, isn't he? He's really cute. They added lyrics to the Nutcracker music just to make you hate this thing even more. Man, if you're over 4 years old, you will find watching this excruciating. The North Koreans could use this to torture prisoners. Best avoided. And speaking of abominations, may as well get this one out of the way. Nutcracker and the Four Realms. It's a Nutcracker movie, so I gotta talk about it. This one comes with some red flags. Here's one. It was made after 2015. And here's another. It was made by Disney. Ugh. And another. The main protagonist is a girl or a young woman. You know what that means? Yep. Girlbossery is incoming. Probably lesbotic tendencies, too. There's so many red flags with this one, you'd think it was the city of Beijing on parade day. And we haven't even watched the movie itself yet. Well, let's get this over with. Clara is sad. Her mom died and she's got a case of the sads over it, but Clara is totes brilliant. Her father just doesn't understand how cool and awesome she is. She doesn't fit in. She doesn't want to be all ladylike, and no one understands her except her godfather, Drosselmeyer. Now, her mom left her kids some Christmas presents, and Clara gets this Fabergé egg-looking thing. But she needs a special key to open it. The family head off to Drosselmeyer's fancy mansion for a Christmas Eve party, and one thing leads to another, and that leads to something else, and Clara is led into the magical world of the Four Realms. Now here, it turns out her mom was a queen, and that makes Clara a princess on account of she was special the whole time. There's an evil villain named Mother Ginger to defeat, and mice and toy soldiers and all of the Nutcrackery stuff. And oh yeah, this is the Nutcracker. Clara's egg key is stolen by a mouse, and she has to get it back from the scary realm. Well, Clara's mom, turns out, was a super smart inventor and built this fantastic voyage gadget that can enlarge or shrink stuff. Clara's egg key fits the ignition switch to that thing too. Well, guess what? Surprise! Sugar Plum is really the villain of the piece. She wants to take over the Magic Kingdom and I don't know what. She has no real plan beyond taking over. Clara has to save the day with help from the Nutcracker, Mother Ginger, and the mice, who it turns out are not bad after all. So this thing bombed hard at the box office, and rightfully so. Part of the problem was that it got released just after Halloween. So just like that Rudolph movie we talked about a couple of videos ago, it came out at the wrong time. That was Disney's excuse for why the movie tanked, but the problem is way deeper than that. A lot of this is CGI. Some of it is okay, but some of it is painful, such as in the opening flyover of Victorian London. Some of the people move in that unnatural, stilted way that just screams bad CGI. There are some name brands in the cast. Helen Mirren plays Mother Ginger. What's up with that face makeup? I don't know. But she's not phoning it in. She doesn't have much to do, but she's actually acting. Keira Knightley plays Sugar Plum, and she is very poorly served by this movie. In the first half, she's a squeaky-voiced, dumb blonde type, really annoying. Then she goes all Cruella de Vil for the second half. Pretty gear grinding. I actually felt sorry for her being stuck with this part. Morgan Freeman plays Drosselmeyer. He's sleepwalking his way through it pretty much, but he's here. And finally, we have Mackenzie Foy as Clara. She was in the Twilight movies, if you care for those, and she was in Interstellar and pretty good in that. Now I gotta say, I liked her. She was a bright spot. Foy herself was good. It was her character that was the problem. Foy was like 17 or 18 when she made this. Clara might be, 16 or so, right? At that age, in Victorian England, she would not be well versed in Newtonian physics or mechanical engineering. They even go out of their way to show her fixing one of Drosselmeyer's complex clockwork gadgets, and she knows all the technical terms for all the parts and everything, because girl, I guess. Now, if this were set in a more modern time, well, sure, why not? A chick could certainly know all that stuff, but in the Victorian era? Not very likely. We don't even see her looking at blueprints or studying an engineering textbook. So how does she know all this stuff? Did her mom teach her? Did Drosselmeyer? We don't see it. And how did her mom become this brilliant inventor in the early Victorian age? We don't know. We never see it, so it's a just because kind of thing. So Foy is like Daisy Ridley here. I don't hate Daisy Ridley. I never did. I didn't even hate Ray. What I hated was that her character never learned anything, never was taught anything, never grew as a person, no hero's journey and all of that. It's the same for this character. She just knows stuff, despite the fact there's nothing to indicate she's studied or trained or anything. She's just the bestest. By the end, she does grow a bit. She grows more than Ray did, at least I'll give her that. Speaking of the Victorian era, there's also the obvious. There are people hanging out and mingling with high society who would never have been allowed to mingle with high society, let alone come in the front door in that time period. They wouldn't even be allowed in the tradesman's entrance round the back if it comes to that. Yet here they are. In actual history, they wouldn't have been allowed. Again, if this is a modern setting, then sure, why not? But this is the Victorian era, Victorian England, a time and place with a very strict class system and a very strict view of other things, race and gender roles among them. So it doesn't make sense. But that's modern Disney for you. Oh, and the lesbotic stuff? There's a cutscene that explains how Sugar Plum and Clara's mom were maybe a lot more than just friends, if you know what I mean. That's why Sugar Plum is so bitter on account of the mom left the Four Realms and Sugar Plum felt abandoned. But that scene got cut and wasn't in the movie. Good call. Now, I will say the production values are not that bad. I'd even say some things are pretty cool. Like this monster made out of living mice. That's pretty creepy. Some of the stuff's awesome. All the clockwork stuff is interesting. These glowing mushrooms, the kids following ribbons to get their presents at the party. I liked all that. Clara's ribbon stands out as having this sparkle woven through it. I thought that was cool. And to be absolutely fair, as far as the modern Hollywood stuff, this is not the worst offender I've ever seen. That would be Death on the Nile, a movie so cringe-inducing, so overbearing with the messaging. I'd give it 0 pause, completely unwatchable. Anti-tainment, if you will. That's how bad it was. If I ever meet Kenneth Branagh in real life, I'm going to demand my money back because he ripped me off. Well, I will after I get his autograph. Nutcracker in the Four Realms here. It's maybe a 2-paw movie if I'm generous. It's not too heavy-handed with the messaging, comparatively, but yeah. The modern feminist claptrap, a moderate amount of girl bossing, it's here. The spectacle is good, Mirren is good, and Foy is very good. Freeman? He just kind of shows up and does his thing. At best, it's a weird CGI-heavy take on the Nutcracker, but there you go. I actually bought a copy of this on Blu-ray. Not new from Disney, of course. I ain't giving Disney my money for this stuff, but yeah, I spent money on it. For you. Fortunately, it was super heavily discounted through a third-party reseller, so I'm not out too much. I do it for you, though. Yeah, I do it for you. But I don't want to leave you with a sour taste in your mouth, so how about one more? The Nutcracker Party from 2020. This one is really different, produced by Dance Houston in Texas. The Nutcracker Party has pretty much no dialogue. No, this one is all told through dance, but not in the way you'd think. There's almost no ballet in it. Through various dance forms and musical styles, it depicts modern versions of the Nutcracker's story elements in what appear to be self-contained segments. This is the Christmas party that opens the Nutcracker, and see, this is the battle between the toy soldiers and the mice. You can tell they're the mice because they have their hair done up with these little pom-poms that look like mouse ears. The Candyland dancers are in a froyo shop getting frozen yogurt. And another segment has a couple playfully battling over possession of a bag of coffee all through their swanky apartment, each one-upping the other over and over. It's pretty cool. I've got to admit, I didn't know what this thing would be going in, and I was prepared for it to be dopey as all get out, but I really enjoyed it. It was very stylish and creative. The Nutcracker Party is on Amazon Prime if you want to watch it. It's only about half an hour and well worth a watch. So, there are some nutty Nutcrackers, and I already have a passel at the ready for next year. Hey, you be good, like you know you should, and I'll see you in the next one.